When the Supermarine Spitfire first appeared, German pilots scoffed. It was small, light, and built by a country they believed they had already beaten. They have seen it as inferior compared to their Messerschmitts, a fragile plane for a fading empire. But soon, that inferior piece of engineering became the nightmare of the German Air Force. Stay until the end to discover how the Spitfire, Britain's most elegant fighter, became a symbol of defiance and turned mockery into one of the most decisive victories in aviation history. Britain's gamble, the late 1930s. Europe teetered on the edge of war, while Germany poured resources into building the Messerschmitt Bf-109. Britain placed its hopes in a sleek elliptical-wing prototype designed by a small company called Supermarine. The aircraft was beautiful, but untested. Some in the Royal Air Force doubted it could ever face Germany's best. Even the name, Spitfire, sounded too playful for the storm that was coming. But when war broke out in 1939, that playful name became synonymous with survival. The scoffing begins. At first, the Germans didn't take the Spitfire seriously. They believed their experienced aces and modern tactics would crush the RAF in weeks. German intelligence described the Spitfire as lightly built and unsuitable for sustained combat. When they invaded France, their confidence seemed justified. The Germans dominated the skies. But then came 1940 and the Battle of Britain. As German bombers and fighters crossed the English Channel, they met the Spitfire for the first time. What happened next changed the course of the entire war. A machine with a soul. The Spitfire was everything its shape promised. Fast, agile, and graceful. Its thin, elliptical wings gave it superb lift and turning ability. Its Rolls-Royce Merlin engine provided both speed and power at high altitude. German pilots were stunned. Their Messerschmitts could dive faster, but they couldn't turn tighter or climb as quickly. Dogfights that once felt easy suddenly became deadly duels. One German Air Force ace wrote, "We could never get away from them. The Spitfire was always there, waiting." The piece of inferior engineering had teeth, the Battle of Britain. By the summer of 1940, Britain stood alone. The Germans launched its assault to destroy the RAF and prepare for invasion. Every day, waves of German bombers and fighters roared across the Channel. Waiting for them were young British pilots in their Spitfires and Hurricanes. They were outnumbered, exhausted, and often flying multiple missions a day. But they held the line. Over London, Dover, and the southern coast, the Spitfire became the guardian of Britain. It was the last barrier between freedom and occupation. The turning point. As the weeks passed, German losses mounted. The Germans expected an easy victory, but found itself bleeding aircraft and pilots faster than they could replace them. The agility of the Spitfire gave British pilots an edge in dogfights, allowing them to strike, roll and climb before the enemy could respond. It was not just a machine. It was an extension of the pilot's instincts. When Winston Churchill said, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few," He was talking about the men who flew the Spitfire. By October 1940, the skies over Britain were still British. The invasion was cancelled. The scoffing in Berlin had stopped. The Spitfire evolves. As the war continued, the Spitfire evolved constantly. New marks were introduced with more powerful engines, heavier armament, and improved range. It fought across North Africa, over Italy, and into France again in 1944. It even faced Germany's advanced and, for its time, ultra-modern Focke-Wulf 190 and still held its own. Each upgrade made it faster and more capable, ensuring that the Spitfire never fell behind. By the end of the war, it had become one of the few aircraft that served from the first day of fighting to the last. The enemy's respect. After the war, captured German pilots admitted their respect. They said the Spitfire was one of the few enemy planes we feared meeting one-on-one. It wasn't just its performance, it was the spirit it represented. To them, the Spitfire wasn't just a fighter. It was Britain's determination made visible in aluminum and smoke. One German ace put it simply, "The Spitfire looked fragile, but in the air it fought like a demon." The Messerspit, when enemies became one plane. After the Battle of Britain, the skies over Europe became a laboratory of constant innovation. Every pilot, every engineer wanted an edge. When the British captured an intact Messerschmitt Bf 109G in 1943, their test pilots noticed something fascinating. The German plane's Daimler-Benz DB605 engine gave it a unique kind of smooth power. Direct fuel injection that allowed inverted flight and crisp throttle response. By contrast, the Spitfire's Rolls-Royce Merlin was more powerful at altitude but less refined in low-level manoeuvres. So the engineers at the Royal Aircraft Establishment at Farnborough asked a daring question. What would happen if we combined the two? The result was one of the most bizarre and fascinating test aircraft of the entire war. A Spitfire Mk5 fitted with the engine of its deadliest enemy, the Messerschmitt 109. They called it the Messerspit. Legacy. More than 20,000 Spitfires were built, each one slightly different, each one carrying a piece of history. Even today, its sound, the growl of the Merlin engine, still brings tears to the eyes of those who hear it. The Spitfire became more than a weapon. It became a legend of courage, innovation, and resilience. What began as inferior engineering became the fighter that defended a nation and inspired the world. This is a true World War II story, because sometimes even the biggest underdog comes out on top. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more true World War II stories.